It was another summer evening in New York City, but this time the community had finally had enough. They'd had enough persecution and discrimination. They'd been arrested too many times. They'd been arrested for things like not wearing at least 3 articles of clothing that were appropriate for their gender. Had I been there, I would have been arrested. And so on June 28th, outside the Stonewall Club, the Stonewall riots began. And they took place over a number of days in the Greenwich Village area, and what it was the catalyst of the gay and lesbian movement. It certainly wasn't the beginning of it. That began at the beginning of time. But this was a catalyst that shot forward activism for the gay and lesbian community. How many of you are familiar with the Stonewall riots? About half of us are familiar with it. Do you know how I found out about the Stonewall riots? I didn't learn about it in my history class in school. For all of my gay and lesbian friends, I had never heard about it. Nope, I learned about it by watching a show called Drunk History. Yes, that is where I got my education. But it says something that I had to watch that show to find out about something so important in our country, because we've really never been the same since then. But it's a little piece of history that gets lost, but not today. Today, we're honoring the 50th anniversary of those riots. They're honoring it big. They've honored it big in New York City. And today, we are celebrating Pride. We are celebrating Pride with, woohoo, that's okay, we got one of these in the bag. We are celebrating Pride today, people. You know? We are celebrating gay pride. We are celebrating, and we are calling out, and we are paying attention to, and we are supporting this community. We're doing it with a new flag that I brought back from convention. This came from the Unity Worldwide Convention. And at the Unity Worldwide Convention, our theme this year was, if I knew your story, I couldn't help but love you. It was all about the stories that we have to tell. If I knew your story, I couldn't help but love you. For those that marginalize anybody, if you could know their story, if you could get in their shoes, if you could live their life, you just wouldn't help but love everybody. It's not always easy, and we're not there, but understanding our stories and telling stories are important. And so today I'm going to share a few of my stories along this journey. I didn't grow up knowing anyone that I knew of that was gay, or lesbian, or trans, or bi, or anything like that. Did any of you have a similar experience? You grew up and this wasn't much of an issue, you didn't know one in your family. So about a quarter of us, there was only one person in high school that I knew who was out. And so that was something very different and unique. But then I got involved in theater. And suddenly my knowledge it just skyrocketed what I knew about that community. And then as I went along and things became more open, I got to know more and more about the community. And yet, I find that I can always be learning something more about this community. For instance, a friend of mine posted on Facebook not long ago, for the month of Gay Pride, a lot of interesting educational things. And so even though I think I'm really woke here and I really get it all, I learned some things. There was a gay writer who posted that virtually every gay man has at one point in his life been walking down the street or driving his car or sitting at a restaurant and had someone yell the F word at him. And my friend posted, I remember it perfectly. It was on this day, and here is where I was, and someone yelled out a car window at me, the F word. And then thousands upon thousands of men posted where they were when that happened to them the first time. And I thought I knew my friend. I didn't know that he went through something like that. I had no idea. And so now I have this opening to talk to him more about, tell me more about your story that I thought I already knew. I thought it was enough that I had the t-shirt and the flag, but there's so much more to the story. And then I find out about the Stonewall riots. And I find out about another piece of it by doing more research on what do all the letters mean? Because there's not just L, G, B, now there's T, now there's Q, then there's I, then there's A. Teddy, got any more?
No, I can't think of it.
There's another T, there's another P, there's a P, there could be a B, there could be a number 2. There could be as many as 22 letters. Did you know that? Yeah. So I actually printed out a dictionary, a glossary of all the terms that I could know to understand more about the community. And it was educational and eye-opening and wonderful and confusing and hilarious. I have a friend whose daughter is a friend whose child is transitioning. And so I've learned a lot by what she's gone through. I've learned about that as far as we've come in this world, this child had her medication cut off mid-transition. And what that does to a person and through their life. So I still know that there is so much more for us to do. And that's why I'm so proud that in 2016, Unity came out with a statement of diversity. And you have a copy of it in your bulletin. Go ahead and pull it out. So that there is no confusion, like in the Methodist Church, where they have a raging battle going on. So there is no confusion that when you walked into this inclusive church, what kind of inclusive church did you walk into? The kind that really opens their arms, or the kind that opens their arms until you get inside and we tell you how you need to change now that you're here? This is our statement of diversity, and I want you to know that this is a big deal. Unity doesn't make a lot of statements. They're not in the statement business, okay? And so they think long and hard, and maybe they're a little behind sometimes when they finally come out. We've always been, to my knowledge, gay, lesbian, trans, opening, welcome. We perform gay marriages. We have gay clergy. Yet, this is our first statement. And I thought it would be powerful for us to read it together because this is your statement. It says UWM, and that stands for Unity Worldwide Ministries. That is what you are part of. There is more to this church than just us and the 5 other churches in Chicago. There are about 600 of us across the country, and we have churches also in Africa, some in Europe. We have churches everywhere. And so you are part of a bigger movement. And so your denomination has this statement, and let's read it together. We recognize and honor the divine within as the one common denominator that we share on our human journey. The living heart of unity understands and manifests its support of this divinity by recognizing there is an inherent good in all people. Unity Worldwide Ministries, its members and affiliates, that's you, welcome with love all people in every form of God's creation, regardless of how that creation presents itself. It is the intent that unity organizations are inclusive and non-discriminatory. We honor all components that contribute to the diversity of a community. We affirm and support unity principles and programs that manifest diversity in our teachings, policies, buildings, and within our communities. We are resolute in walking the course of human rights and social justice for all. And so it is. That is a different statement that you might read in another church. Not everybody would be welcome. Not everybody would be considered whole and perfect. But here, every single one of us is whole and perfect. We are born the way that we are born. We grow into who we are. We are a diverse world, and we're getting more diverse all the time. There are letters to the LGBT community that I did not grow up with and did not know about. Things are changing. Gender identity is a thing. Who knew? I didn't growing up. I didn't know that there are people that consider themselves binary. So I decided that I was going to educate myself and know as much about the community beyond what I think I already know, and I invite you to do that too. To just explore a little and see what you might find out. And the reason that this is so important to us as a community is because this is about the unity principles, the first and second principles. That we know that God is the presence, the substance, the source of goodness and good in all things. It can't not be. It can't not be in this person. It can't not be in this situation. God is present everywhere in everyone. That is our first and our second principle. And that's what we stand by. And then our fifth principle says that we act on that truth. So we are opening and welcome and we let people know. And we challenge ourselves at times because none of us is perfect. Even Myrtle Fillmore. You won't find really much written about this issue from our earliest writings 100 and 130 years ago. It wasn't really talked about much. It wasn't really on the radar. So you won't find it in Christian healing or lessons in truth. You won't even find it in Myrtle's healing letters. But where you will find a mention is in a letter that Myrtle wrote, tucked away in the archives of Unity Village. A woman wrote to Myrtle, at the turn of the last century, upset that her husband was gay, and could Myrtle pray for her. And so Myrtle's prayer was that her husband would change and be healed. That was the understanding at the time. And so I share that with you so that it's not just swept under the rug, just like race was an issue in Unity until the 60s, when people of color were not let to stay on Unity Village grounds. So we haven't always had the best record. We are a people of our time, most of us. And so we do our best. And so Myrtle prayed for healing here, not understanding. And now we have a greater understanding, and as we like to say, when we know better, we do better. And now we have a statement, and I know if Charles and Myrtle were alive, they would support this statement. They would support that. They were used to being on the outside. They looked at things differently. And then Unity went a little bit further, and on the flip side, I think, of what you have is our statement of social action. How many of you knew we even had this? Anybody know we even had this? Who knew? There's social action in Unity? Really? Well, we have it outside with our pets. We have it with the diapers that we collect. So we have a statement, though, of how it's a little bit different for Unity. We do something called spiritual social action. So that everything that we do first comes from that spiritual place, from a place of prayer. And that we question and we look and we pray and we listen to, is this ours to do before we act? And so we do everything from a place of our first principle, that we don't lose sight that God is everywhere and in every situation. So rather than fixing what is broken, we bring more wholeness to any corner of the world that we feel called to be. And so if you look down on the bullet points here, it says that where there are divisions of opinions, beliefs, and perspectives, Unity embraces curiosity, exploration, and expanded awareness of the gifts of diversity. Where there is any difference between us, race, gender, orientation, religion, we don't judge. We use wise judgment, but we do not become judgmental. We are open and curious, and we say, tell me your story. Let me know more about this so I can understand where someone is coming from. I may not agree, but instead of putting up a wall of difference, I try to keep reaching out to find out what could be the same. So where there is fear of other, it says in the second bullet, Unity stands for inclusivity and peaceful acceptance of another's right to create the life of his or her choosing. That is our default, is we honor your individual right to be who you are, even if we may not understand it at times. And so that is the Unity perspective. And I was so excited to talk about pride today that I admit that I feel some pride myself. Like, I'm proud to be in the unity movement. I am proud that this is a day that we will celebrate and talk about. I am proud of so many things about what we do. And so I was so excited, I said last week, everybody wear rainbow colors next week. So, anybody wear rainbow today? And a few of you may have taken me up on your offer. Anybody? Okay, we've got one here. Stand up, Joan. Let's see. She's got Irish rainbow. Look at Joan. Love is the way. Thank you. Okay, and David's got the socks. There we go. Careful. Don't kick her there. Okay. Well, wait, what do we have? We have a belt back here. Thank you. Mary's got a beautiful belt. Excellent. Well, I made that request forgetting that I have nothing rainbow in my wardrobe. This dawned on me last night at about 5 o'clock. Okay, well that's not a problem, it's a holiday, right? I know that there's 4th of July stuff everywhere. I'm just gonna go out and get myself a rainbow t-shirt. How hard could that be? So, Target surely will have something. Nope. Walmart will surely have something. Walmart put out this video that then got them in trouble, but come on, Walmart's trying to get in the game. Nope. Jewel Osco, come on. Nope. Everywhere I went, Kmart, oh wait, we don't really have Kmart anymore. That was usually my go-to store for, Easter shirts and this shirt, so I couldn't find one anywhere. That kind of woke me up a little bit too. That this is a big holiday in my world, but it's not such a big holiday overall. It's still kind of exclusive into that community. And so, I had to go home and create. And so what you see in front of you here is my homemade Pride t-shirts. This is the best that I could do at 11 o'clock at night at this point, because Amazon doesn't deliver before 8 a.m. So I just had to do my best. And I discovered that most of my markers had dried out. So I was like, practically ripping the shirt. The shirt is also cool for another 2 reasons. The other reason this shirt is cool is because I got it at Circulation Day. That's the day a few weeks ago that we put everything out on tables to clean out our house, and you could come for free, and it was wonderful, and there were these great t-shirts that I could sleep in, so I grabbed a couple of them. So it came from Circulation Day. Maybe it came from one of you, I don't know. So, and what else is cool is it's a man's t-shirt. I thought that was kind of appropriate. But again, 50 years ago, in Greenwich Village, I would have been arrested for wearing man's pants, man's shirt, and only one article of women's clothing, my shoes. I would have been arrested for that. Isn't that something? So that woke me up, that there weren't t-shirts everywhere. There wasn't even a necklace, there wasn't even a button. And oh my gosh, I don't even want to tell you the looks I got from the clerks in the store. For what? For gay what? For rainbows? What? They had no clue what I was talking about. So that was a wake-up call to me as a theater person, that not everybody is up on this, not everybody's been to the parade. And there was another reminder this week that a friend of mine took off to Barbados. In Barbados, it is illegal to be gay. It is illegal to be gay in Barbados. So my friend Ogan, Reverend Ogan Holder, Unity Minister, is from Barbados. So they don't get any more welcoming and inclusive than Reverend Ogan, and so the community there invited him to speak today. So in about an hour, for the first time, there's going to be a public, open, inclusive service for the gay and lesbian community in Barbados. Wow. Wow. So we are making a difference across the globe, and he does that with a little bit of risk, because it is illegal. He is speaking publicly. They are going to be gathering. So let's hold that whole community in prayer right now, and know that this is an opening for them to be able to understand the beauty of God's creations in all the ways that it comes forth. So that's happening down in Barbados. And then I was remembered of an incident that happened in a church that I went to years ago. We were reading the Daily Word. How many of you get the Daily Word? Okay, so at the bottom every day is what?
Quote.
A Bible quote. There's a Bible quote. And so there was this lovely quote, and we were doing a bit of a Bible study at the time, from Romans. First chapter of Romans. It says, Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Peace to you. How beautiful, right? Grace to you and peace from God. And so the minister said, what's often helpful when you're reading the Bible is to understand the context. So instead of just reading one passage, why don't you all go home and read the whole first chapter of Romans? Oh, sounds pretty good, right? And so we all went home and we read that. And then the phone started ringing in her office, and the texts started coming, and people started emailing. And she went ahead and she looked ahead into this chapter and thought, uh-oh. And so after the goodness and the grace and the peace from Paul, this is what we get. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and wickedness of those who by their wickedness suppress the truth. Therefore God gave up on them in their lust of their hearts to impurity, to the degrading of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth for a lie. For this reason God gave up on them. Their women exchanged natural intercourse for unnatural, and in the same way also the men, giving up natural intercourse with women, were consumed with passion. Men committed shameless acts with men, and received in their persons the due penalty for their error. Ouch. So she had to scrap what she was going to talk about the next Sunday and talk about that. And I'd like to talk about that for a moment, because so much of the discrimination and the hatred comes from the Bible. Right. It comes from a very few passages in the Bible. Let me ask you, what did Jesus say about homosexuality? Nothing. Not a word. He didn't preach on it. He didn't talk about it. Those words come from Paul. They're words from other writers. Jesus had nothing to say about this because he welcomed the marginalized. He loved everybody, and that's what he taught us to do, and that's what we do. And yet this still lives with us and is still used as a weapon at times. And it was written in its time. I'm not excusing it. I'm not excusing the errors that Unity has made or that I have made. We are people doing our best with an understanding of the time that we're in, and not even an advanced science or psychology to understand. What we know now about LGBTQ is so much different. It used to be classified in the DSM. So, it's a new day. It's a new day for all of us to stand up for what Reverend Ogun is doing, to stand up with our homemade t-shirts, and maybe to reach out to your friends who are LGBTQI, A, B, P, whatever, and to ask them more about their story, or maybe get curious like I did and look up the alphabet soup. There's intersex, which is the new appropriate term that we used to use for hermaphrodite. I didn't know the term had changed. Now I know. There's asexual, there's pansexual, there's binary. There are all sorts of things. And it's real because my girlfriend's child is right in the middle of that. And I watch my pronouns. I'm never perfect, but I'm aware and I'm trying. Because I want to honor all of God's expression. That's what we do here. And we know that everyone is born beautiful. And so we find the beauty in this community as well. Absolutely. And I hope that there is a day that we don't even have to necessarily celebrate this. That it's become so normal that no one even thinks about it. That it's just the day that we mark some things that happened in history, and we aren't even thinking about it that much more. And so I invite you to take the unity statements of diversity and social action and maybe put them up somewhere in your house to remind yourself, this is the movement that you stand for. One that recognizes everybody in every way that they're born perfect, born wonderful, born beautiful. Because as Lady Gaga tells us, baby, you were born this way.
My mama told me when I was young, we're all born superstars. Roll my hair and put my lipstick on in the glass of her boudoir. Nothing wrong with loving who you are. She You're that perfect way. So hold your head up, girl, and you'll go far. Listen when I hear you say, I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause I've been shown that I'm on the right track. Baby, I was born this way. Don't find yourself in this step. Just ask yourself in this step. I'm on the right track. Baby, I was born this way. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track. Baby, I was born this way. Don't find yourself in regret. Just love yourself in this step. I'm on the right track. Baby, I was born this way. There ain't no other way. Baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way. Baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way.
Don't be proud, just be a queen. Don't be proud, just be a queen. Don't be proud, just be a queen. Don't be proud, just be. Don't be proud, just be a queen. Whatever you go, whatever you do, no black, white, red, no orient, no red, peace, no orient. Whatever life's disability, let you outlast the liberty. Rejoice and love yourself today, 'cause baby, you were born this way.
I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track. Baby, I was born this way. Don't find yourself in regret. Just love yourself in this step. I'm on the right track. Baby, I was born this way. You're beautiful in your way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. You're on the right track. Baby, you were born this way. Don't find yourself in regret. Just love yourself in this step. I'm on the right track. Baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. And he makes no mistakes. Baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. And God makes no mistakes. Baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. And God makes no mistakes. Baby, I was born this way.
And that is the truth. Amen. And so now we have the chance to give back into this wonderful spiritual community. And as you take your tithes and your love offerings, I'm going to invite you to do something a little fun today. As we bring forward the baskets and they get passed and the ushers can come forward, and you can start this now. Instead of a blessing, I'm going to encourage everybody to put some joy into the bag. They say that God loves a joyful giver. It actually means something close to a hilarious giver. So as they pass the bags, you go ahead and pass them. Cindy, Pat, go ahead and pass them. Put in a hee-haw, a joy, a wee. I love it. It's great. Whatever joyful expression you want to put into the bag, your energy infused into that makes a difference. We got the power. We got the power. Show me the money. So we are passing these with joy. With joy in your expression. Wee! We've got a wee! Woohoo! Thank you! Wee! Woohoo! Oh, that is. Woohoo! We are joyful givers. We are joyful receivers. We are in the divine flow. I see the joy on your faces. This can be the most fun part of church. Sharing your blessings. We are so grateful. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your spirit more than anything. Thank you for supporting this community in all that we do. You are blessed. And now we're going to welcome in our beautiful children. Let's welcome in all these beautiful. I invite you now into a time of meditation. A time for you to turn inward and go to the secret place on high. And if it's comfortable, gently close the eyes. And I now turn my attention within. to an awareness of what is always here. The presence of God, the power of the divine, the love of all things. All of this is right here, in this present moment. And all I need do is turn toward it, feel it, be it. I gently notice the breath that comes and goes. I breathe in, I breathe out. I breathe in, I breathe out. In and out. And as I slow down, as I turn within, my body chemistry changes. I light up with the Spirit of God within. I am whole. I am home. I am free. I am free from any restrictions, from any labels, from any expectation. I am free. I am fully myself. I have risen up into the Christ place of my nature, to my true self. And I rest in this place of perfection, simply breathing in and breathing out the magnificence that is life. I am whole. I am free. I am in the silence of truth. This is one of the most powerful things I can do in any moment and throughout my days. To spend time in glorious meditation, listening, being. I am shifted every time I take this time together, and I am changed further by being in this room with others as we co-create the sacred space. And we now send this love out into all Unity communities across the country and across the globe. We are united with our Unity brothers and sisters in knowing oneness for all beings. And then I send this love out further to all individuals in every country, every race, those in need. I send out this inner peace and let it touch all beings so that together we can know this is our truth. Peaceful, loving joy. And so it is. Amen.